Hello, my name is Courtney Francech, and this is my Theory to Practice project, specifically looking at the English language arts in a middle school setting. My teaching philosophy, I believed in a balanced classroom. I can't pick just one theory I completely agree with, but if I had to pick one that I mostly see my teaching philosophy fitting with, it would definitely be constructivism. I want my classroom to be a student-centered learning environment. I don't want the focus being on me as the teacher, but I want it being on the students and what they want to learn, and I will just be there to guide them and help them to get to where they need to be. I definitely believe in active learning. I think if students are engaged in what they're learning, they're more likely to remember it. Um, Not only, I don't think it's very beneficial for them to sit there and listen to me because most of them actually aren't listening, but if they're actually involved in their learning, they're more likely to remember. Collaboration, I think, is a huge thing going on in education right now and all over in the workforce. People need to be able to work with other people. Most people, when they get a job, aren't sitting by themselves and not interacting, so I believe this is a skill that students will benefit greatly from practicing in the classroom. And I think choice is a huge thing for students. My personal learning experience, I was always the student that said I really dislike English language arts. I never liked English. I was never a big fan of reading and writing until I got to middle school. Um, I could never say I didn't like English class from 6th grade to 12th grade because I just had the most amazing English teachers. What made them great is their enthusiasm. They had a passion for what they were teaching, which rubbed off on us. Made me fall in love with books, and now today I read for enjoyment, which if you would have told me that as a 6th grader, I would have never believed you. Um, But choice was a big thing in our classrooms. My teachers allowed us to present what we learned in many different forms. We could do projects, papers, presentations, anything you name it, as long as we were showing them what we were learning. Another thing is we interacted with the text. Teachers didn't have us just read a book, write down what we thought, maybe answer a few questions and call it good. We discussed a lot with our table partners as a class. We really made connections with ourselves, and we listened to our peers connections, and we definitely interacted with the book and kind of put ourselves in their shoes, which always made it much more interesting. And so I never had English teachers that would stand up in front of me and just lecture, which I think made all the difference. So what this will look like in my classroom, I was a big fan of small group readings. So not everybody having to read the same group, but you got into smaller groups of people of the same interest. And you'd read a novel and you'd stay on the same pace and you just discuss the book. You guys could do little projects together, but not everybody having to read the same book. I'm a big fan of not cookie cutter learning. Discussions will be a huge part of my classroom. Students um, can work with each other, and they need to learn how to be good listeners. I think students aren't really taught to listen too much anymore, but there's a lot more to listening than what people think. So I think teaching that skill, how to be a good listener and being attentive, is very important, and how to speak properly in a group setting, formally and informally. I like Writer's Workshop because most students in your classroom aren't all struggling on the same thing or the same concept. So Writer's Workshop allows students to focus on the areas that they need to improve, not just what the whole class needs to improve on, which I think is very powerful. And again, option and choice, which is a main theme I want in my classroom. I want to give my students a foundation, but then let them play with it. Most great things didn't come from somebody telling another person what to do, but for somebody discovering something on themselves and letting just the creative juices flow. The Common Core is very important. It's the foundation of what the education system at this time. So a big thing that I think is great is to integrate other subjects when you're teaching English language arts skills. I think it's a great way to students can learn skills, but also some other subject matter. Focusing on reading, I want to have a good balance of fiction and nonfiction in my classroom. I think it's good for students to read good literature, but also to be able to read a text and to extract facts from it. Writing, of course, will be a focus. Speaking and listening, as I said, I think those are both important skills that students will need to learn because it's something that they'll use the rest of their lives. And of course, conventions. I want my students to present their ideas in a way that shows their intelligence, because good writing form, people can present their ideas and sound very intellectual without spelling errors and all those other grammatical things that come with it. Again, I would like my students to just be well-rounded people, not just well-rounded English students. That was a focus in all my English classes growing up. My teachers always focused on helping us become better students in general, not just better at English, and I think that's a good focus that I would like to keep in my classroom. So I thank you for listening today, and I hope you enjoyed it.